How's it going, everybody? Jared Lutz here, back with another Diablo 4 video. The Diablo team just held another developer live stream earlier today, this time hosted by Rhykker, a fellow Diablo content creator. It was a great watch. I really enjoyed every bit of it. We learned a lot, and there's a new beta coming up, so we've got a lot to talk about, so let's just get right into it. So as we talk about the new things that we learned, if I speed through Helltides or speed through Paragon boards, it's because I've already broken all of those things down in my previous videos. So if you don't know what Helltides are, or if you don't know how Paragon boards work, you can check out my previous videos to actually learn that stuff. We're just here to talk about the really big new items that we learned that are kind of like more so details into those systems. So first off, they started talking about Capstone dungeons and world tiers, and Rhykker said that it was a humbling experience trying to beat a Capstone dungeon, and he said that he had lots to learn when it comes to boss mechanics, and he died enough times that it forced him to repeatedly go back to town to actually repair his gear. This is kind of surprising to hear, but very good to hear, because in the betas, going up to level 25 was pretty simple, and even at level 25, like Necromancer, Sorcerer were just slaying through, and there was almost no difficulty even on Veteran. So knowing that veteran players will actually have a hard time getting through Capstone dungeons, that's good to hear. Once again, Capstone dungeons is basically what are separating you from the next world tier. They also talked about adding difficulty in different ways versus just increasing monster health or increasing monster damage or just increasing numbers so they're bigger. So instead, monsters will have different attacks, different attack patterns on higher world tiers. That way there's a bit more uniqueness to difficulty. Now on World Tier 3, you actually have a chance to get sacred items, and they were talking about how when you get a rare sacred item, for example, say it's a rare sacred ring, that item, even though if it dropped at level 50 and you're level 50 when you get this ring, that ring can be good for, let's say, a level 70 character. It has like a wide berth of how good that ring can be dropped when it's sacred. So even though you're level 50, this ring could take you all the way to level 70 and beyond. So you have like multiple options you could do with this ring. You could take it and you could keep it as a very powerful boon to your build, or you can trade it to another character who might be level 70 already and might be looking for something like what you found. We also learned that more legendary powers will become available on higher world tiers. And we also got to look at tons of unique items. So real quick, let's take a look at what those look like and kind of speed through them. First, we got the Harlequin Crest, an ancestral unique helm, which comes with the unique power that just gives you 20% damage reduction, and in addition, gain +4 ranks to all skills. What the world? We also got Mother's Embrace, an ancestral unique ring, which comes with the unique power: if a core skill hits 5 or more enemies, 35% of the resource cost is refunded. Then we have Temerity, an ancestral unique pants, where effects that heal you beyond 100% life grant you a barrier up to 44% of your maximum life that lasts for 8 seconds. There's also the Blood Artisan's Cuirass, an ancestral unique chest armor, which has the unique power: when you pick up 5 blood orbs, a free bone spirit is spawned, dealing bonus damage based on your current life percent. The Word of Hakan is an ancestral unique amulet, with your rain of arrows is always imbued with all imbuements at once. And the Gloves of the Illuminator, an ancestral unique gloves, where Fireball now bounces as it travels, exploding each time it hits the ground, but its explosion damage deals 65% less damage. And last but not least, 2 unique weapons. First off, Overkill, an ancestral unique two-handed mace, where Death Blow creates a shockwave, dealing 24% of its base damage to enemies. Enemies who die to this effect also reset Death's Blow's cooldown. And then the Waxing Gibbous, an ancestral unique axe, where you gain stealth for 2 seconds when killing enemies with Shred. Breaking stealth with an attack grants ambush, which guarantees critical strikes for 1.9 seconds. Next up, we're going to talk about Helltides. So Helltides show up once you hit the Nightmare World tier, and while you're playing Helltides and killing enemies within Helltides, cinders are the currency that will drop, and you use these cinders to open special Helltide chests found around the area. Now each chest is tied to an item slot, so in order to farm a certain item, you'll be able to open the chest containing the kinds of items that you want. So if you're actually looking for an upgrade to your gloves, you get a bunch of cinders, then you look around to find the gloves chest, and then you can open it to kind of target farm gloves. Now if you die within a Helltide, you lose half of your cinders. They don't drop on the ground, you just straight up lose them. So the greedier you get, the bigger the chance that you have to lose. Helltide events are also timed, and once you leave a Helltide or once it ends, you lose your unspent cinders. Within Helltides, chests aren't the only way to get loot. You can still get legendaries and good gear to drop from the monsters and events inside Helltides. The Helltide chests just kind of allow you to get more deterministic drops. There are also unique crafting materials that can only be found within Helltides. And there's also Helltide specific bosses that can show up, as well as the Butcher who can spawn in to wreak havoc. Next up is Nightmare Dungeons, and Sigils specifically. Sigils are tied to a level when you find them, and they also have different afflictions or affixes that alter each dungeon. We know this. Sigils, once again, are what you need to get into a nightmare version of a dungeon. The higher the level you are, the higher the level of sigils you'll get, and higher level sigils have more and more affixes and afflictions on them, which will make nightmare dungeons more unique and much more tough. You can also salvage sigils you don't want, and then use those salvaged sigils to craft different ones to get ones you might rather have. Rhykker talked about an affix where like a blood cyst is following you around and growing in size over time, and if you don't deal with it, it'll explode and can deal massive damage to you, and it actually one-shot Rhykker. We also learned that creature level goes up to 150 in Nightmare Dungeons, so they will be challenging, and they can be challenging if you want to keep going in there and keep fighting tougher and tougher enemies. We also learned that you can upgrade your Paragon glyphs via Nightmare Dungeons, and these glyphs can actually become more powerful than legendary powers if used correctly in Paragon boards. Speaking of Paragon boards, we actually got confirmation when it comes to rare nodes, and that they will still have those secondary effects that you can unlock depending on a certain stat. For example, some rare nodes might have a secondary bonus that says if you have this amount of dexterity, then you get this bonus, or if you have this amount of strength, then you get this bonus. And right now you're seeing on screen the example that they showed off. Now, as you add more and more boards, these stat costs become more and more expensive, so sometimes it's not always best to fly through the boards trying to hit every single rare node. The normal nodes work to help you increase those stats on your way to the rare ones to make that stat requirement more reachable if you kind of path correctly. A note from Rhykker, he said that every board kind of has its own fantasy where they're all centered around the main legendary node. Each rare node supports that legendary node, each magic node supports those rares, and so on and so forth. So each board isn't just full of random nodes that don't pair well with each other. Next, they went over beta feedback and changes, which if you haven't seen the most recent blog post where they basically talked about and announced all these feedback and changes, I've done a separate video going over all that. Basically here they just kind of talked about those changes. During this point, Rhykker actually mentioned that he got to play a permanent Werewolf Storm Druid endgame build and said it gelled together nicely, and that build put Druid close to the top of his list for his favorite class, where it originally was his least favorite. He also said that Barbarian is now his second favorite, up from being his fourth. This is coming after Rhykker was able to play the most recent version of Diablo IV, which includes all the changes that was talked about in the blog post. Then we got news about the Diablo IV server slam. That's right, Diablo IV will be playable again before the official launch. On May 12th through the 14th, anybody can play Diablo IV again to test the servers. They're calling this the server slam for a reason. All the changes mentioned in the blog post that came from community feedback will be in place for this, but no changes will be made after this server slam weekend, so when we're playing the game on May 12th through the 14th, this will be very close to what the feel of the game will be when it launches in June. All the classes will be available to play. The only difference here is that you can only get to level 20 instead of 25. And this time around, if you get to level 20 and beat Ashava, the world boss, at level 20, you'll get the Cry of Ashava mount trophy, which is just a cosmetic item, but it looks really cool. You get to like place it on your mount as you ride around. Really awesome. If you have any questions about this server slam, I'll leave a link in the description that brings you to the website that explains everything about it. Then we had the Q&A section of the live stream, where a couple questions from the community were answered and a couple questions from the live chat were answered, so I'll go over a few of those right now. From a question, we found out that only a subset of dungeons will be able to be turned into Nightmare Dungeons each season. So each season, these dungeons will rotate. We also learned that the skill tree was designed to be able to add more skills and more passives over time, but these additions will likely come from big expansion size updates. We also learned that Renown is reset every season, while permanent stat boosts will progress season over season, like the stat boost you get from Altars of Lilith. This is something really cool that we learned, where different monsters, bosses, and events have higher chances to drop certain types of items, where you're more likely to find a crossbow, for example, from a skeleton. So if you're searching for legendary or unique crossbows, you know who to hunt down, skeletons. Over time, players will find the best places, best enemies to more so target farm certain types of loot or resources. And there's more depth to this system that they are planning to do with seasons, but no details were shared. There will also be no overlay map option in the game at launch, but they are looking at feedback, so it's possible it will come in the future, which is something I definitely want. The Fields of Hatred were also brought up, and Joe Pipora had mentioned that they are chaotic because that's the fantasy. So if you go in there alone, you might get ganked by a squad of 4. There is a system built in, so if you wander into the fields at a lower level, you won't be bucketed in with players who are super high level compared to you, but there's nothing keeping you safe from full squads. He did mention that Fields of Hatred are large areas, so you're not going to be easily farmed by players. There's ways for you to escape, or distractions that take place that will catch other players' attention. There's multiple places for you to purify your shards, so if you see a ping for someone purifying in the northeast of the zone, you can then try to head to the opposite side of the map to purify in maybe more of a safer area. We learned some things about crafting, where over time, over seasons, they have tons of plans for crafting and new plans for modifying gear in unique ways. These are systems that will change a lot and get updated a lot throughout the life of the game. And last but not least, WASD movement will not be in the game at launch, but it is something they're looking at. So those are the biggest things we learned from this developer live stream. I'll leave a link to that live stream, so if you want to watch it back in full, you can do that. Subscribe for more Diablo IV news. I'm going to be covering a lot about the game up until launch and after launch. I've got a lot of videos currently cooking, mostly beginner type videos. I want to help new players get into Diablo. Maybe they've never played the game. Maybe if you've never played the game before or any in the series, you don't exactly know what Diablo is or how the systems work. I'm working on videos like that, so those will be coming out soon, and then I'll probably do some beta thoughts and things like that after the server slam weekend. So until then, thank you for watching. Thanks for sticking through this entire thing. I'm super excited about the announcements today. I'm super excited about the server slam. It's going to be great. Going to get together with friends and play some more Diablo. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait until launch. So I don't have an outro, so this is basically it. It's kind of awkward. I hope you have a good day. Peace.